In this video I will be looking at the townscape of the chosen area in Berlin to understand how various townscape features contribute to the conclusion of the sense of a place. The analysis is based on Gordon Collins' book, The Concise Townscape. Berlin has a population of 3.5 million people of 180 nations and a density of 3,900 people per square kilometer. Friedrichshain is a former working-class district in East Berlin. The chosen route first shows a typical residential area in Berlin with buildings in the classic style of the period of rapid industrial expansion in the early 20th century. The journey starts at the former industrial area of the State Railway in Revaler Straße and makes its way through the residential area of Friedrichshain, crossing the green Boxhagener Square and then turning onto the historic Frankfurter Allee with its distinctive architecture of socialistic classicism from the 1950s. The walk ends at Bersarin Square, which can be traced back to the Hobrecht plan from the late 19th century. The walk starts with a dark 5-meter-high wall on your right side, which gives you a feeling of not being very welcome and closure. The wall is covered with posters which take away a bit of the impersonal darkness of the scene. And there is a surprise along the way which rewards you with a mysterious view in, but keeps you wondering if it is public or private space. On the other side of the street you see the house front of residential terraced houses. The general eaves height in Berlin is 22 meters. At the end of the street there is a deflection to the right, but we will turn left and enter the Simondach Street. The Simondach Street was created in the beginning of the 19th century. Under the process of gentrification it is now a very popular place to go out. The experience of walking along the street is always very exciting, but why is that? The area is very bubbly. Residents and owners of the shops, bars and restaurants conquered the space and gave it a new function. If the temperature allows it, there are about 2,000 outside seats. The house fronts are dominated by projection and different colors which add to the intricacy of the place. Still there is a uniformity created through the alignment of the terraced houses at the pavement and captured spaces here and there. These structures give your emotions a little rest as well as the sudden openness in the middle on your walk along the street. Open and public space is everything what the next stop on my walk is about. The Boxhagener Square sits in the middle of this residential neighborhood and has the size of exactly one block. Approaching the park, the trees are closing the vista, and inside the tree enclosure the park turns into an open space divided into 3 different parts, each with a different function. A playground, a splash pool made of stone and with no water ever, and the other half is a big lawn. These parts are all enclosed by fences, which, in this case, give security. The park used to be more open and had different open vistas that are now closed, but the trees give the people inside the park a feeling of privacy and intimacy. The intersection at this point is interesting because at 2 corners the houses are set back and open up the closure of the streets. In contrast to that, the edges of the corner houses on the other side are very present. Also the street has multiple function here, carrying not only cars but also trams. The view to one direction is closed by a house at the end, and all other views are closed by deflection. This missing infinity gives you a very enclosed feeling of a place you cannot escape. Approaching the intersection to Frankfurter Allee, we are entering a different character area, but also a different level of scale. Turning left, the Grand Vista opens and leads us to infinity. The view to the Berlin landmark, the TV tower, is enclosed by the landmarks of the neighborhood, the towers of the Frankfurter Gate. The scene also creates an intensive feeling of here and there with a distance of 4 kilometers in between. Walking along the spacious and monumental Frankfurter Allee after being in the cozy neighborhood makes you feel smaller and less important, but this also leads to a feeling of freedom. The first impression is quite monotonous, but the second view offers a characteristic scape of the buildings created by projection and recession and different levels of height. Along the edge there are many surprises. Suddenly the intimidating house fronts opening up and offer a view inside. You will find a new library made of timber, which offers a contrast not only of old and new, but also of the material. And just by turning around you will see an impressive building with lots of architectural details. Going ahead, other surprises are awaiting you. 2 connection structures which break again the uniformity. One keeps the mystery of what's behind, even if it is quite small, but the other one does not connect well with its background. If the background setting would be different, it could be a very nice netting. But the contrast between the old and new is visually very unattractive, so we keep moving towards the Frankfurter Gate. As said already before, the two towers of the gate, with their distinctive silhouettes standing out from the skyline, function as a landmark for Friedrichshain, even at night when they are lighted. Not as romantic is the fact that the intersection at the Frankfurter Gate is dominated by traffic, which of course destroys the atmosphere and makes this area not a nice place to rest. Nonetheless, the place is working quite well because this big intersection is enclosed by these buildings that make you feel like everything is in its place. The whole place is very open, and since there is nothing else that could distract your view, you are paying attention to the architecture of the socialistic classicism. Even though the general shape seems to be quite massive, there are subtle details, different materials and softenings of the hard edges, such as the view through the columns and the steps. After valuing this, there is no need to stay in this still impersonal place, so let's move on to the end point of this walk. The Petersburger street is just an intermezzo before getting there. What's interesting here is the way how they combine street green as public space with the tram. Without that green and the trees, this part of the street would be plain and dull. This way it is at least a little bit richer. The Berzarin Square is the most unpleasant place along the walk. The relationship between space, enclosure and scale doesn't work. The main street is too wide and there is no sculpture or high vegetation on the round square in the middle your eyes could hold on to. Your body is confused about the relation and demands for more enclosure. Also, the architectural style is not very beautiful or interesting. The houses at the square have been built after the ones before have been destroyed during the Second World War. In addition, the square makes it hard for pedestrians to get around, and it's not even worth it. You just want to hide in one of the streets and not feel exposed anymore. Then you see that endless street and you cannot see where it would lead you. So where to go now? Besides the last part, the shown area definitely has a sense of place. And even though Berlin may not win the crown for the most beautiful city, it has its own character. As Cullen said, variety comes with the usage and the people. And what gives Berlin the sense of place are the people that create their own environment. I have learned that vision truly is more than we can see. The city is an experience and people continuously identify with their surroundings. These information are important while designing a whole new neighborhood from scratch. The most important thing I've learned is that variety comes with exceptions from uniformity. But uniformity and structure are also important to feel secure as well as active fronts. I will consider all this for my own design for Grand Pont.